My name is Melissa Fry, author, editor, and creator of the Confident Writer Intensive. Today we are talking about world building. I'll give you some of my best tips for it, and we'll talk about why it's so important when you're writing your book to build your world correctly and realistically. Let's get started. Let's talk about why world building is so important in your novel. Number one, it helps the reader get immersed in the story. If they can make sense of your world and they understand it and you've done it well, they really get involved in the story itself. And when you build your world well, it makes it believable to the reader. Even if it's not set in their reality, they're still able to picture your world. Now let's talk about some tips for world building. Number one, make it believable. So basically, you want to create a set of rules for your own world and then follow them. The more consistent you are with those rules, it's going to make more sense to the reader. They're going to understand it. You also will want your characters to engage with the world in a natural way. It's their world after all, so they're going to engage with it naturally, and that helps create buy-in for the reader. And if your world is not the world that we all live in, for example, if you're writing a fantasy novel, you can use things that are familiar to the reader to help ground them in that world, even if the world itself is not familiar. It helps the reader relate to it and gives them a point of reference. Number two, you really want to engage all the senses when you're building the world. So think about what the characters could taste, smell, see, hear, and feel, not only physically, but also energetically, what kind of vibes they're getting from that universe. This also helps with show versus tell, which you've heard me talk about before, but it helps bring in things that the reader can identify with. And it helps build out your world because the reader can make sense of it. Number three, know your world inside and out. So a great way to do this is to create a profile for your world. Now this can be as extensive as you need it to be. For example, if you're writing fantasy, or it can be very simple or even just something in your head if you are writing somewhere grounded in the physical world that we all live in. So it just is going to depend the level of detail you need here based on what type of book you're writing. But every book has probably a few things different than reality, even if it's just the two characters in the book, or 3 or 5 or however many. Those characters are fictional. So there are going to be aspects of your world that are fictional. There may be a celebrity that you reference, for example, that is fictional as well, and that's going to affect how your characters interact in that world. So just consider creating a profile for your world, getting all those details out that might trip you up as you're writing, and it will help you understand your own world more fully so that you can convey it to the reader realistically. And number four, don't info dump. What I mean by this is don't just think of aspects of your world and write it in a narrative scene. Nobody will pay attention to that, and it will get very boring very quickly. That's not to say you won't have some narrative pieces in there, especially, like I said, in a fantasy novel, if you're building out an entire world that the reader doesn't necessarily have a reference point for. And you're going to want to introduce your world organically. You can do this through dialogue. It's a great way to do it. So just think of a way to creatively put in details of your world. It could be something that your character smells as they're walking down the street. It could be the way they relate to things. And also, you could have, if this fits your story, a character that is somehow new to this world, that you can introduce certain elements of the world through that new character's eyes. That's been a really effective tool in some stories. If that works for you, might be a great way to do it. And if you'd like more help with learning the writing craft, including things like world building, show versus tell, and so much more, I am running the Confident Writer Intensive. It is a 12-week interactive live writing program that really is focused on teaching you all the things you need to finish your book. We will use weekly trainings and interactive live streams and Q&A sessions and even writing sprints to help you actually make progress on your book so that you have all the tools you need. If you're interested in joining the Confident Writer Intensive, enrollment closes April 5th. of 2021. So please reach out to me if you're interested, and I will help you get started. Alright, those are all my tips for world building. I hope they were helpful. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment below if you have any questions or have your own tips for world building so that we all can learn from each other. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Alright, my name is Melissa Fry, author, editor, and creator of The Confident Writer Intensive. I'll talk to you later. Bye!